24 hours after President Trump pulled the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear deal, we have dueling warnings at this hour. Here's President Trump's.
I would advise Iran not to start their nuclear program. I would advise them very strongly. If they do, there will be very severe consequence.
And now to the Iranians' warning. If the deal cannot be salvaged with the remaining members of the UN Security Council, Iran says it will restart uranium enrichment. What does this mean for the stock market? And I'm talking about all markets, currencies, everything, commodities near term. From London, we have Naeem Aslam. He's the chief market analyst, and he has traded everything from equities to Forex, and he does so for Think Markets. And from the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, senior Iran analyst Behnam Taleblu. Gentlemen, the French foreign minister said today the deal is not dead. We just got the breaking news from the French President Emmanuel Macron saying stay in the deal with the rest of the nations, even if the U.S. is out. Naeem, market action is bullish and relatively fearless at this hour. What are you seeing across asset classes, and why do you think that is?
Thanks for having me. Exactly. There is no fear in the market because market believes that the US has withdrawn, that's okay, but the EU, France, Germany and UK can still salvage the deal. Liz, this is an opportunity for once in a lifetime. The EU can stem its position. They can show that they can salvage the deal without the US by not only carrying this deal forward, but also creating the presence of euro against the US dollar as a benchmark currency, because we do know that Donald Trump is going to come and he's going to apply those sanctions. So France, Germany and UK would have to find a place, would have to find a strategy under which they can open the credit lines for the companies based in the EU doing the business with Iran, but based in euro, not in the dollar. That is the game, because we already know that the bilateral sovereign credit lines have already been issued by countries like credit for the companies which are in business with Iran. So this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
But Behnam, isn't that a workaround that would skirt the U.S. sanctions that will now be back in place? Give us this post-game analysis from both the business angle, but also a reaction from multinational companies in the world.
Well, I would also advise the European Union to not take a short-term market phenomenon and to translate that into a political phenomenon, which, if there is an escalation spiral between the U.S. and the EU over sanctions enforcement and implementation, and if the U.S. enforces its secondary sanctions on the EU, and you have the blocking legislation, and if European banks and businesses, particularly central banks, continue to process transactions with Iran, they will be subject to those tough secondary sanctions, and the U.S. would be in a position after 180 days, when those sanctions do come back online and are enforced, to actually impact the market. So I think now is the time for the unwind period. While there are some in Europe who are bullish and who do want to press ahead with this deal, I don't think they should let short-term market phenomenon dictate their politics.
Naeem, we're watching lawmakers in Iran burning a flag, an American flag. They don't burn European flags. They burn Israeli flags and U.S. flags. The president has said, why should we be in a deal with this country? So back to the reaction that we do see. Right now, we've got a gain of 191 points for the Dow Jones Industrials, lots of green on the screen. These people are still doing what they've done forever, saying, let's wipe the U.S. and Israel off the face of the map. I can see why the markets are fine with this. Why should we be in this deal?
I think, leaving all the politics aside, creating this deal was a positive thing, without any doubt, because it refrained Iran from creating that nuclear power or whatever the nuclear ambition that they had. And on top of that, we also added to the GDP. 20 billion worth of business was done last year. Now, if you compare that during our pre-crisis or the pre-sanction period, that number was standing at 3.6 billion. So, Liz, here is my take. I think it is better to have Iran on your side rather than being playing a game of being in the crosschair. I don't think that would yield any good return for anyone.
But Behnam, give us your final thought on this. This is a country that maybe they didn't violate the nuclear deal, but the missiles that they have put together, they are supporting terrorism. Do you really want to be in bed or in business with that kind of country?
That's a question that European and Asian banks and businesses should be answering. And while European politicians may be swayed by market phenomenon, in the past decade, European and Asian banks and businesses have been more swayed by the Treasury Department, by FAQs put out by the Treasury Department, and by generally accepted compliance norms. And the fact of the matter is, deal or no deal, Iran is a bad place for business, and that's what they should know.
Didn't used to be, though. Behnam, Naeem, thank you, both of you. We really appreciate the dueling perspectives here.